You know they cured polio, right? Like a guy named Jonas Salk.
Was he Jew? He was. Yes.
An American Pickle stars Seth Rogen and is now available on HBO-MAX. And this film tells the story of a Jewish immigrant from Eastern Europe back about 1920 who comes over to America to find a better life for him and his wife. But as his job in pickle factory goes, he falls into a vat of pickle brine and is preserved for about 100 years. Wakes up in present day and fish out of water story and whatnot. But he meets his grandson, great-grandson, played by Seth Rogen as well. And so the hijinks of someone from past lifetime intersecting with current lifetime. Seth Rogen is playing two roles at once. Comedy, other stuff happens, and honestly, this is a bit of a mixed bag. It's not a bad movie, but it's a really big mixed bag. I think obviously first thing to talk about is Seth Rogen in dual roles. He's great in everything that I've seen him in. I never thought that he's given a bad performance, and here he gives a good performance. But I feel like that this ties into like the whole big problem with the film that I had was his performance could have been something really great if the story itself was something like much better, much more like much bigger, and knew exactly what I wanted to be, and I'm about to get into that. So this film kind of it's not like it has multiple stories going through it, but it has different stories that it's trying to tell within an hour and a half, but it doesn't know what story it really wants to focus on the most and which one it doesn't really want to focus on. Because you have you have the immigrant tale of Seth coming over in the early 1900s, living life and whatnot, trying to survive and live a good life for him and his wife. Then you have the fish out of water story, trying to adjust to normal life. Then there's a little political commentary and story that happens in here. There's some dramatic stuff about Seth Rogen's present day character, trying to find his roots again, discover who he was, what his religion is and other things like that. And all of these are trying to intersect over one another, and just kind of, while it's funny, it just becomes a giant mess, and you don't really know what the film's end game is here, because it goes between each story at random parts, at just the most random times. It's just I wish that it was more concise and that it knew what it wanted to tell. What's weird, though, is that this is from the writer of the show Miracle Workers, and that show is hilarious, and he's able to write really well, and especially comedy. And this film is funny. There's definitely a lot of really funny parts to it. But again, this film called for more dramatic moments and stuff to happen because of the way the story is structured, and the stories that it's trying to tell. You kind of wanted to go those more dramatic routes. So discovering religion and family, what it all means to past and present, those colliding, that itself could have been a really good dramedy. And Seth Rogen himself has proven that he can do drama well. In Steve Jobs, he gives a fantastic performance, and here he could have given another really fantastic performance. He gives a good performance, but again, it goes back to the story itself. It's not giving him enough to do. Another weird thing that I noticed while watching is that this has a really huge lack of side characters. It's really only Seth Rogen in the two roles that have any prominent being in the entire film. There's no side characters, and there's no friends or anything. It's weird. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it was just something that was weird that I noticed reflecting on the movie. Because in comedies, you always have the sidekicks, the comic relief and other things like that. They're not here in this, which I thought was an interesting choice. It's not a problem, but it's just something that I was thinking about. The director of this movie, this was his first movie that he made. He's been the cinematographer for Seth Rogen and his production company for years. He shot The Disaster Artist, This Is the End, several other comedies and dramas. He definitely has a lot of talent in that department. So to jump from that into director and starting with a comedy, I think was a good leap for him. And again, I don't think this was his fault, but the story itself just didn't really call for a whole lot. So he gets the job done and he's able to deliver the comedy well, but again, it boils down to the script and the story. It's just a giant jumble of things that it doesn't know what to do, and the director just kind of ended up just going along with it, not really knowing exactly what story he wanted to tell himself. Overall, I would say I'm a bit disappointed by An American Pickle. This could have been either a really great comedy or a really interesting dramedy. It has those aspects and ingredients there, but it just doesn't know how to make it work. Because there can be some really funny stuff, and there could be some stuff that's surprisingly, like, touching. But again, it just doesn't know how to balance it. When it goes for the pure comedy, it works. When it goes for the dramedy, it works. But then when it tries to make them intersect and make them work together, it just doesn't work. I don't really blame the director. I more blame the script is not really knowing exactly what he wants to tell and the story wants to tell. Seth Rogen does a great job, as he always does, but after seeing, like, films like Long Shot, like, a year ago, to this, just kind of feels like, I don't know if this was not a bad career decision, but just like there could have been more time given to the script itself to be stronger. Overall, if you want to see it, I would say see it if you're a fan of Seth Rogen, but I wouldn't say go expecting anything like, huge or grandiose or anything like that. It's fine, but it's a mixed bag. I'm going to give An American Pickle a 5 out of 10. I was really looking forward to this one too, because I'm a big fan of Seth Rogen. A lot of his films I really love, and Steve Jobs is still my favorite performance of his. I want to see him do more dramatic stuff because he's really good, and hopefully in the future he does get more dramatic roles because I really think that he is a good actor, but who knows. So that was my review of An American Pickle. Have you seen it? What do you think of it? Any other movies or shows you want me to review? Let me know down in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, all that cool stuff, and I will see you all next time.